Who's gonna see you?
Run! Oh, you have to climb.
Where's the key? Go under something.
Hamburger, cheeseburger, Big Mac, Whopper. Hey, hey! Get back here! You little get back here! Alright, where'd you go, you little
Tweedledee and Tweedledum.
Well, I was gonna say Tweedledee and Tweedledip. I remember the first episode of the Joe Rogan Experience I ever saw. I was sitting in my bedroom. I think it was, oh gosh. I think it was here at this house, yeah. I think it was here at this house. And I remember it was a podcast, I think it was number 50-something, and it was him, Eddie Bravo, and Joey Diaz. And Joey Diaz was, like, telling a story about him being in prison and all that. And he was just sitting there, he was just like, hey, Cuba, go up there on stage and fucking tell jokes. And it's like, he goes up there, he tells jokes, and he's like, yeah, talk shit about the kitchen back there. Like, all the brothers working back in the kitchen. And that's how Joey Diaz learned how he could become a comedian, because he was in prison for, like, kidnapping, dude. Like, he was a pretty, like, solid, like bad dude, like, back in the day. He was a legit gangster. But he also shared some very disgusting stories about some of the women that he'd been with, and, like, some of the stuff that, like, the dirtiest of dirty shit. Like, I mean, holy crap.
Stop scratching my carpet.
Ah! You're still doing it. So, I would say the biggest thing with the Joe Rogan Experience that has changed over time is that it went from Joe, because I went back and I watched the first episode when it was him and Red Band just like on Ustream trying to figure out how this shit worked, to now being the biggest podcast in the world, and being a cultural phenomena unto itself. And I honestly am just in like I'm flabbergasted by how successful it got. I mean, almost 2,000 episodes now, dude. That's crazy to think about. Almost 2,000 episodes worth of the Joe Rogan Experience. And hold on, let me hold on. Let's Joe Rogan Experience. There we are. Yeah, 2009, and God, yeah, this is when I was still living here. Ustream and all that. Let's see. Does it got up here? It doesn't have like the Red Band and all that. 2009, the YouTube era. They transitioned to YouTube in 2013. They were originally on Ustream, and then they spent a little bit on Justin TV, which later became Twitch.tv. And oh my gosh, it's crazy. Just seeing. Hold on, let's see. Episode list. There we go. Yeah, it's almost at 2,000 episodes now. Wow. 1,938. Jesus. Let's see. Does it have a thing here where we can... gotta go all the way back. Joey Diaz. As Tom Green, Ari Shafir. Joey Diaz and Eddie Bravo. There's 39. Let's see, was it... I think... Yeah, it was in the 50s, I think. When I saw with... Or maybe not. Maybe it was that one. Cliff Blazinski? Dude, he interviewed Cliffy B back in the day?
Apparently.
Yeah, there's Joey Diaz there again. So I would say... yeah, I would say... yeah. So there he is. It was him and Brian Redband in the beginning. And then just... Holy crap. He did 2 by himself. That must have been boring as hell for him. Because he just loves talking to people. Yeah, he did too with Joey and Eddie in the 30s. You know, we're looking at him here. But I've had some experiences with the Joe Rogan Experience where I've just been like, I've seen the conversations that he's had with people, and most of them have gone very well. Most of them, he doesn't ask the same stupid old questions. Like James Hetfield came on there, and instead of asking James Hetfield, it was like, James, what was it like to play in Russia in front of 500,000 people? And you know, the same question that he's been asked over and over and over again. Instead, he's just like, so I heard you're into beekeeping, bro. What's that all about? And then James is like, oh, dude, I'm glad that you know about that. So let me tell you all about it. And it's just, he likes to see what makes people tick, and I think that's what, he's a great interview. He's a great interviewer. He's someone who takes down the barriers and lets people just be themselves for the most part. And I would say the biggest thing that has come out of the Joe Rogan Experience is you've seen that Joe Rogan really isn't 100% on any side. He's not 100% on the right. He's not 100% on the left. He's his own dude, and he doesn't really have to prescribe to anyone's like ideal of what side you should. Because people, for people out there who are all about escaping the gender binary, they seem to be very adamant on the political binary, even though that's not a real thing either. The political binary is just like what? Why do you always have to be on one side or the other? Can't you have can't you have thoughts that you agree with on both sides of the aisle? No, you have to be on one side or the other. It's like, and thus you get people dubbing Joe Rogan as a right-wing nut job and all that. And then when he goes on the other side, it's just like Joe Rogan, the ultra stupid libtard. They just keep throwing that stuff out there, and just like people are so eager to label nowadays, instead of just understanding that not everybody's going to agree with you, and they shouldn't always agree with you, because then life would be fucking boring. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into this. Sunny V2 collected the most intense arguments in Joe Rogan history, so let's check them out and see what we got.
With almost 2,000 episodes of the Joe Rogan Experience, it's no surprise that there have been a couple of pretty heated arguments, and we're going to kick the video off by looking at one between Joe and a guest by the name of
Candace
Owens.
I remember
who
this one.
initiated the conflict after stating in a very smug way that humans don't need to care for the environment because climate change doesn't exist.
You don't think we have to care about the environment? Like, what do you...
No, not even a little bit.
No, climate change is real, but here's the thing about it. It's happened over time. I mean, the Earth has been a molten ball of lava, and it's been an ice ball multiple times. It's literally been at the extremes multiple times. And yeah, to say that climate change does not exist, that's kind of a brain dead take.
Not even a little bit?
Okay, let me clarify this. I don't throw trash on the ground. I'm not saying we need to trash the environment. But do I believe in climate change? No.
Joe pushed back on this initial statement by arguing that the topic was incredibly complex and that maybe Candace wasn't in a position to make this claim. Things became even worse when Jamie brought up a website to support Joe's side of the argument.
The vast majority, 87% of scientists, said that human activity is driving global warming.
Yeah, I don't believe this at all, just so you know.
Which resulted in Candace implying that they were specifically searching for data to support what Joe already believed.
I guess look up the opposite, right? Instead of looking for what you're searching for, looking for what you're not looking for.
I didn't search for it. That's what I found when I searched.
Joe then doubled down on just how detrimental the climate situation could be.
This could negatively impact all sorts of coastal cities. This could be a gigantic problem. This is not propaganda that's drummed up by some sort of big business that seeks to make money off of this.
Yet Candace showed no interest in changing her belief on the topic, escalating the conflict even further.
Yeah, here's the thing. I'm always willing to admit if I'm out of my depth on something. If there is a subject that I am out of my depth on and I don't have as informed an opinion on it, and someone shows me an opinion that has actual intellectual backing behind it, I'm more than willing to listen to it. I'm more than willing to absorb that and see how it factors into where everything I have in my mind is. And people who are intellectually shut down like that, I mean, it's frustrating to deal with people like that. I've dealt with them. I've dealt with family members who are like that, and it's, God, is it frustrating.
I don't believe it's real. Okay, so I can't sit here.
But here's the question. But why have a belief? Why have a belief as to whether or not global warming is real or not real?
Because
if
I just find that when things,
you don't understand the science.
You are correct.
But why have a belief in it?
Right. So it's not a belief. It's not a belief in it. I don't believe in it.
Joe was eventually able to get Candace to admit that she didn't really know what she was talking about.
How about not have a belief until you really have
okay, so you would prefer if my language, as opposed to admitting that I do not know this, I wouldn't die until I've never made a video, I've never made a public statement. You would have preferred if I had just started by saying I have no opinion.
No, I don't know.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. You say
but I said I didn't know.
No, you say I don't believe in it.
Yeah.
I don't believe in it. You're saying really clearly that you don't think it's real.
However, Eddie Bravo was significantly more stubborn, who found himself in an...
Yeah. Joe Rogan and Eddie Bravo are like best friends. I mean, Eddie is Joe's like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu teacher.
I'm wondering if this is the one that I heard, which was where he was just acting absolutely insane about the flat Earth thing.
Well, no, and that's the other thing too, is Eddie is a conspiracy theorist nut. I mean, I'm not saying that he's like a huge like he's not Alex Jonesing it up. Although him and Alex Jones have had conversations and they found themselves agreeing on shit to a certain degree. Eddie is just a person who questions everything, and whenever he gets his mind on, I know that like it's like, oh, I've gone down this rabbit hole enough to where I've been able to latch onto enough information to where all of my stuff, like all the beliefs that I held before, are now in question and this and that, and he just leans all in on it. It's a level of, I'm not going to say delusion, but it's a level of self, like throwing oneself into the realm of confusion that it's almost insane. I mean, I love Eddie. I mean, Eddie, I love the conversations him and Joe have about jiu-jitsu and about certain things when it comes to like back when they both lived in California. But yeah, Eddie just would not let this go.
An argument with Joe after refusing to let go of the idea that the Earth was flat.
Yeah.
Show me a real picture. Show me a real picture.
Listen, NASA does not have one of those satellites.
Fake.
Why does it look fake?
It looks like something you'd see in a movie.
That's because when they do it in a movie, they try to make it look like this, which is what looks real. Why would it be fake?
It's propaganda, man.
After Eddie kicked off the argument by claiming that every round picture of the Earth is fake, Joe continued the conversation by requesting to see a legitimate photo of a flat Earth.
Is there a photo of this flat Earth?
No, like I just said again.
That's all I asked.
There's no photo of the flat Earth from space. There's no photo of the round Earth from space.
That's not true. That's not true.
It's all fake.
Why do you say they're fake though?
They look fake. They look CGI.
But you're.
Yeah, here's what I would say to Eddie. There was someone who had like the ultimate takedown, who was just like, I forget the. Hold on, I forget the. Damn it. Yeah, it's basically it's like every science. I forget which one it is, but there's a guy who literally just goes like, every scientific organization outside the United States, every this, every that, all these organizations that are not involved with NASA, all these individual space organizations who have satellites in space, all of them are conspiring against the people. Like, all like 200,000 different people who are involved in this are somehow, some way, all on the same page that are all trying to fool people.
Mm-hmm.
And the person,
and for what reason? For what benefit?
That's my whole thing. But anyway, sorry.
not an expert in imagery.
After being backed into a corner, Eddie made the argument that the sources Joe was using were being paid for to keep the conspiracy going.
Where did you get this information?
Jamie.
Where'd you get it?
Where'd I get what?
This information. Where is this coming from?
This is coming off the internet.
Exactly. So you're reading some information. I'm reading some information.
Slow down.
You didn't go to the library.
Slow down.
It's on Wikipedia.
Just slow down.
Eddie, stop
There's
doing that.
sources here. There's a book called the American Journal of Science. I'm sure that a lot of people respect
Which is
that.
bought and paid for.
Well, maybe.
Why would anybody be paying money for people to lie about the world spinning?
Which was followed by Eddie stating that there was no evidence to confirm that the Earth was in fact spinning.
Eddie, people have known it's spinning forever. That's how the seasons
Gravity,
work.
baby.
That's how you see the sun. We spin around. That's why it
Okay,
makes
explain this
eclipses.
to me.
That's why we
you can track time zones. That's why you can put a piece of stick in the ground.
You're saying all the correct shit.
It acts as a sundial.
After over 40 minutes of back and forth between the two, Joe completely lost it.
Eddie.
I used to say the same
Eddie, you're
stuff.
talking about the
I
Earth being
said this-
flat.
I'm
Thousands of
saying the
scientists
same
have
thing.
looked into it. You think they're all wrong? That's so insane.
You haven't looked into it.
I have.
No, you have.
Oh my God. How could I not?
It's at this point, I think Joe Rogan would be like, Eddie, I will take $50 million of the $200 million that Spotify has paid me to pay Elon Musk to shoot you into space so that your dumbass can see the Earth is fucking round. And I guarantee you, Eddie,
It'd be like those are just screens. I didn't actually go to space.
Eddie, guarantee it. Just be like, all right,
They put
Ed,
me in this fucking little thing with screens, and they just played videos.
all right, Eddie, break the fucking window. And that's when I put my suit on, and be like, all right, Eddie, break the window. And then Eddie gets sucked out into space in the vacuum, and the last thing you hear is like, still fake, bro. God, some people are just stubborn for no reason, dude. I have family members who are like this, and they're frustrating to talk to.
Well, there are people that just like are terrified of being wrong about something, so they just will not let themselves be proven wrong, even like when the evidence is like
they'll go to great
stacked
lengths.
completely against them.
They will go to great lengths to prove themselves that they're not wrong. They'll go Hail Mary. They'll go rogue.
They'll literally lie to themselves to avoid admitting that they were wrong about something. So.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Nothing is wrong with admitting you are wrong. Admitting you are wrong is how you get smarter, because then you're capable of learning. You're capable of critical thinking. But most people nowadays can't admit to that. They can never admit to that. God.
Not have. You don't think I have? Eddie, there's websites dedicated to debunking it. There's so many people working on these things, Eddie. The idea that they're all in on some sort of a giant global lie is insane.
However, while this argument could certainly be dismissed as a bit of banter between two friends, the same can't be said for the argument between Joe and Matt Walsh, who began the heated exchange after claiming that gay marriage shouldn't be allowed.
Okay. Yeah, this is...
threatens the institution of traditional marriage.
But then why are you opposed to two gay people doing that?
It's not about choice. It's about what this institution, marriage is an institution, and what is it, and what purpose does it serve?
Joe then made the point that a gay marriage doesn't damage a straight marriage in any way.
No,
I
it
don't
doesn't.
think gay people and gay people getting married in any way, shape, or form changes a bond that you have with your wife.
To which Matt responded with the following point.
If marriage is not what I'm saying it is, why do we even need it? A thing that actually exists, which are man, woman couples creating babies.
But after Matt stated that the point of a marriage was for a man and a woman to make babies, Joe questioned the following.
If marriage is only for procreation and to bond a family together, what about people that are deeply in love that never want to have children?
I don't think it's not only procreation.
Right, but if people want to be married and don't want to ever have children...
Sort of retracting your point
Or
there,
people
man.
who want to be married but can't have children.
That's another thing. I mean, Matt's points here, I've heard Matt Walsh debate certain things. On this, he is majorly off base. And I would say the biggest problem that I have with his point here is the fact that institutions come and go. Institutions rise and fall. And here's the thing. You can have your institution that values what you are doing. But you shouldn't be afraid of other institutions doing what they're doing, as long as they're not making a demand of you that you have to change things to like that's the whole deal.
That's the thing is like Christians have it in their head that like letting people like get married that are not men and women somehow freaking affects them, and it doesn't make any sense. It's delusional.
Yes, it is. Sad to say, it's because I'm part of that faith.
I think this will be a couple that is rejecting one of the fundamental aspects of marriage. They should be open to life. I would hope that in the future they would be.
It seemed as though Joe and Matt could have argued back and forth for hours on end. But what happens when Joe invites one of his haters onto the podcast?
Ooh.
This is what happened with Brian Dunning, who had written an article claiming that Joe was one of 10 celebrities who promote harmful pseudoscience, in which he'd write, comedian Joe Rogan does what he can to promote virtually any conspiracy theory that he stumbles onto, apparently accepting them all uncritically with a wholesome embrace. He believes the Apollo astronauts did not land on the moon. He believes...
What?
Yeah, here's the thing. Joe has invited conspiracy because it makes for good conversation. It makes for good podcast banter, stuff like that.
And he talks to conspiracy theorists all the time, but he doesn't just straight up accept them all himself.
No, instead he takes
like
in
if
what
so,
they're
he would
saying.
believe the fucking Earth was flat along with Eddie Bravo.
Yes.
He just wouldn't sit there trying to prove him wrong for as long as he did.
He believes Oliver Stone's version of the Kennedy assassination. There's a lot of credence to what Oliver Stone says about the Kennedy assassination, and you shouldn't just throw it away because you don't like what he has to say. He believes that aliens crashed at Roswell in 1947. Who knows,
So do a fuck ton of people.
Yes. He thinks Men in Black from the Blue Book, Project Blue Book, stole his friend's camera, even though Project Blue Book ended over 38 years ago. Hey man, people thought that MK Ultra ended a long time ago, but turns out it kept going into the 90s. People honestly, we don't know. This is the thing that I think people just need to understand about what Joe's doing here. He is inviting people in who have these conspiracy theories, who have these theories and these experiences, and he wants them to tell their stories. Now, Joe will look at it from a fixed viewpoint, and he'll give them some rope and lend into where they'll really explain in depth why they believe what they believe, because he's interested in hearing it. But Joe's not just going to go out and say, "Wow, this guy told his story, and now I'm 100% on board with everything that he said."
He believes the U.S. government was behind the
Asher's
9/11
just
terrorist attacks. He believes the Oliver Stone version of the Kennedy assassination. He believes that aliens crashed at Roswell in 1947, and the government is covering it up. Joe, if you're going to put so much effort into promoting conspiracy theories and eroding what little rationality the public has left, at least have the courage to come forward with a cogent argument and well-sourced evidence, instead of the lameness of "I'm just the guy asking questions." Take the responsibility. Joe would take this responsibility by inviting Dunning onto the podcast, which resulted in a 3-hour back and forth arguing about everything, beginning with conspiracy theories.
Well, it's just factually inaccurate on so many different levels. I don't understand why you wrote it like that. There's things that you said that I believe that I don't, that I've never said that I do.
Before eventually concluding with diet and alcohol.
It's not correct. That's not the way the body works. That's not the way the digestion system works. When you say that there's a supplement that can prevent you from getting drunk, you're I'm sorry, you are against all reasonably established science, and you're trying to make a buck off of people potentially getting killed. And I had a huge problem with that, to the point that I had to turn the show off.
However, if we're on the topic of diet and alcohol, then we have to look at the Joe Rogan Experience number 1267, which became one of Joe's most heated episodes after 2 opposing diet specialists began to argue about nutrition.
To this no, Gary, you talked for a long time, and I'm going to talk for as long as I want now.
Throughout the whole episode, the 2 guests were continually mocking each other in a very subtle way.
How does the brain regulate that?
I didn't say it regulated that.
Gary, hold on.
That's fascinating. But how does the brain do that?
Which accompanied other segments where the guests made it very obvious that they hated each other.
Data are very clear on that, Gary. So
no.
Yes, they are. Look, we have data.
We can't say things like that, Stefan, because we're going to disagree on what the data say.
Let's move on. You think they ate mostly fish? That's incorrect. Okay, according to the data. I remember you saying that in your book, something to that effect.
Stefan, read what you've got in my book. Read what I say.
Anyway,
just read what I say.
Let's go on.
We don't have to argue about it. Read what I said.
I'm going to move on here.
The adversity between the two guests became so great that Joe had to intervene on more than one occasion.
Gary, I really continue to get the feeling that you do not understand human energetics, because that's not how it works.
Well, no, I'm just saying 10 calories stored in the fat tissue. That's
10
just
calories.
mathematics.
10 calories.
I didn't say anything about how much you have to eat.
I'm not done.
Okay, no, but you're insulting me, Stephen. You got to stop doing that, dude.
Gary.
You keep acting like you think I'm an idiot.
All right, are you done now? Are you done?
Can we be clear that we're talking about...
Are you done now?
Can I just finish this?
No, you can't until I am done.
Me without, no,
Gary,
you
have time to
It's
respond.
like, this dude seems egotistical as hell. Like,
Gentlemen.
Yeah.
Like, hold on. This is the thing that Joe needs to do. Joe needs to, at one point, if someone is if they're doing like a live debate between two people like this, needs to have it to where they have the ability to interrupt 3 times, and they have like a minute. They have like a minute or two to rebut a statement that was said.
Yeah, like if you're gonna have an actual debate on the podcast, moderate it like a debate.
Yeah,
so
and
you're just letting one dude be a dick and the other guy try to explain himself the whole time.
Yeah, and the other thing with it is just you're given 10 minutes to make a statement, to make your statement in your side of the debate, and then like your opponent gets three interruptions where they can like interject and make a point like on the immediate like subtext of what was being said, but then they are given like a 5-minute rebuttal, and then the other side does the same thing, 10 minutes of their statements, 3 interruptions, 5-minute rebuttal, and I think that's a healthy way to do it. That is a very healthy way to do it, because then you are not allowing someone to just railroad the conversation and just like force their way into making whatever point they want to make, and then just completely shutting down any kind of rebuttal or anything like that. Because there's just so many complex thought pattern or ways of schools of thought out there that everyone there's people out there who prescribe to different things. For instance, there are people who I know who are vegan, and they make no judgment about the fact that I'm not vegan. They understand veganism's not for everybody. And there are some people out there who can subsist on the vegan diet 100%. But they've also shown that there are some humans out there with completely different metabolic processes that cannot survive on the vegan diet. It's just been proven. And as much as I support anyone who wants to follow whatever diet they want to, as long as people are happy and healthy and all that, I mean, why bother arguing or fighting each other like that? It's pointless. It's stupid.
Down notes on what you want to respond to, and after he's done, you can talk.
Yeah, but we're going to get a long discourse on something that's not the point.
Well, let's find out if it is the point. We don't know what he's going to say.
Thank you. Okay.
But despite this, the two diet experts failed to agree on almost anything.
What do you disagree with?
Well, virtually everything.
As we've seen so far, Joe Rogan is pretty good at keeping his cool whenever things...
So, that wasn't actually an argument between Rogan and his guest. It was actually just an argument between two guests.
Yeah.
Yeah, but... Yeah.
Gets spicy. However, in a recent episode with Dave Portnoy, Joe struggled to keep his cool after Dave stated that Tommy Fury wasn't a real boxer.
I like Dave Portnoy to a certain degree, but he was really out of his element saying that Tommy Fury didn't know how to box. Tommy Fury can box. He's got pro fights under his belt, and he looks pretty good. It's just, I don't think he's as talented as Tyson or Huey.
Who is Dave Portnoy?
Dave Portnoy is the head of Barstool Sports. Everyone calls him the Prez, and he also does One Bite Pizza reviews.
Oh, the pizza guy, right?
Yeah. That's where a lot of people know him from. But Barstool's where he made his money. And the whole deal with Dave Portnoy is, I would say, right here, he was just out of his depth and didn't know and just would not admit to it. I remember this happening on the podcast. I was like, Dave, just stop. Just stop, dude.
I saw Tommy Fury box. He is not a boxer.
Well, he's definitely a boxer.
Well, he puts on gloves.
He's definitely a boxer.
Dave went on to make the point that Tommy was only famous due to his brother's name.
We would not know who Tommy Fury was if his last name wasn't Fury.
Probably we wouldn't know as much about him.
I don't.
But he's still a good-looking guy. He's built great. He looks looks the part.
Looks the part.
And while the conversation was somewhat amicable in the beginning, the tension escalated after Jamie pulled up a video of Tommy Fury's boxing.
Look at this. Look at this. He's fighting a professional boxer. The guy's fighting looks good. Dude, you're crazy.
Yeah, Tommy's a legit boxer, dude. Tommy, he's not one of these. He's not a Jake Paul opponent. Well, he was going to be one of Jake Paul's opponents, but then Tommy got injured and the fight had to be stopped, or fight had to be called off. But before it even happened. But Tommy's legit. The dude knows how to throw punches, and he's from the Fury family, who are literally taught from the moment they are crawling how to throw a punch. Tommy, Huey, John, all of them know how to fight. And even Tyson. Yeah, Tyson. Sorry, I meant to say Tyson first. Tyson, Tommy, Huey, and John all know how to throw fucking punches.
If you don't think Tommy Fury's a boxer. Look at that uppercut.
It's a beautiful uppercut.
Look at this.
Find the Tommy Fury fight. Can you find me the record of
Watch this. Stop. Watch this. Watch this. Look at this. You're out of your mind if you don't. Look at this.
Look at that right hand. That was in slow motion.
No, it's not in slow motion.
I think you slowed that down.
No.
I think you slowed that down. It's a YouTube video. The only way you can slow it down, every clip would be in slow motion if you... Dude, come on, Dave.
He is 100% a legitimate professional boxer. If you don't think so, you're just being a hater.
The argument between Joe and Dave felt like it was coming from a fun perspective. However, Joe Rogan...
Yeah. Adam explained. I remember this. But, yeah, Tommy Fury... Here, let's look at Tommy Fury's record. Here we go. Tommy Fury. There he is. Tommy Fury's record. Why he didn't appear at the conference with Jake... So, yeah. Jake Paul and Tommy Fury back on again. Hell yes. Thank goodness. So, yeah. Tommy is 8-0, and he's fighting Jake Paul on the 26th of February, this month. So, yeah. I hope Tommy knocks his teeth out. I really do. Jake's a legit boxer, too, but I think Tommy's just got more experience.
Rogan's argument with Adam Conover was significantly less friendly, which began when Adam stated that he saw nothing wrong with transgender athletes.
Sports with trans athletes who are, competing with with their gender, right? That is a sporting world that I'm more interested in.
Joe responded to Adam's position by making the point that it's unfair for a biological man to compete against women.
If you're a woman and you're a natural woman and you don't take any extra hormones or male hormones, you're not taking steroids or any sort of performance-enhancing drugs, you're doing your very best to compete and you're at the top of the heap. But then someone comes along that was a man for 30 years and decides they're going to be a woman, and this has happened, and literally transitioned a few months ago, and competes as a woman and destroys records and dominates you in that sport. That's not competing on a level playing field. It's not fair. It's as much cheating as taking steroids when the other person doesn't.
I disagree, and
what do you disagree about?
I've already. Well, I don't think that there is such a thing as a perfectly level playing field. I think we decide what kind of playing field we want to have.
Sure, but we do make the distinction where we don't allow men to compete in women's divisions.
And I think that distinction may be breaking down a bit, right? And I think it may be time to break down that distinction a little bit.
So you think that males should be able to compete in the women's division of weightlifting?
No, I don't necessarily.
But they can if they transition.
Well, first of all,
the debate became even more heated.
Just anyone who starts doesn't know what the fuck they're talking about.
And here's the thing, I'm not against, I think it should be up to the board, the people who are running the organization. If they want to allow it, fine. If that's what they want to do, cool. But in terms of just addressing biological differences and the fact that we have nowadays the ideal of just like, you know, gender fluidity and all that. I would say the biggest problem is just when it comes to sports, if an organization wants to allow it, cool, but if an organization does not want to allow it, I think that people just need to just understand, like, hey, that's what that organization wants to do, and if you don't support that, then don't support them. I mean, I think that's perfectly logical. I mean, if you want to support ones where transgender athletes can compete against the other sexes, cool. But if you don't want to support the one that doesn't have that, fine, do that. And yeah, it's a tricky subject. It's a very tricky subject that I'm not equipped to really handle. I mean, you know, we've had trans people on here, Quinn, for instance. And Quinn, I've had conversations with Quinn about multiple things, but sports is not really something that we discuss because Quinn's not really into sports that much. Quinn's more into MCR and Pokemon. But yeah, I honestly, I would say my whole deal is like organizations that run this, they're going to do whatever the hell they want. I mean, the Olympics are going to do whatever the hell they want. Like, the World Bodybuilding Organization is going to do whatever they want. Boxing's going to... It just depends on the organization that wants to support it. That's all.
It's one of those things where I don't really know what my opinion on it even is 100%. I haven't formed a fully fledged opinion. I haven't seen enough science behind everything. Like, I mean, I know what it looks like from a very outside position, like, but I can't claim to have enough knowledge about the subject to really have a definite opinion on it one way or another.
Well, yeah, and it's difficult. It's really difficult to gauge what the right answer is because there may not be a right answer. That's the whole thing. I mean, given how complex of a situation it is, there might not be a 100% right answer. I mean, there's not going to be an outcome where you're going to make people 100% happy with what you decide.
Yeah,
ever.
Probably so.
You are always going to be pissing somebody off.
Mm-hmm.
And whether or not you make the right decision, only time will tell, because time is, basically makes fools of everybody, because hell, supposedly a great person back 300-400 years ago is now seen as like an absolute monster because they participated in a kind of a thing that is frowned upon nowadays. But it was the norm back then. And what is the norm back then versus what is the norm now? I mean, people always judge from the current perspective versus like how things were back then, and instead of just looking at everything from a fixed perspective, everyone's just like, if I was around back then, things would be different. No, they wouldn't. You'd be following the exact same rules as everyone else in society, and if you didn't get in line, you'd have been killed. I mean, it's just how it is.
After the two got onto the topic of transgender children.
If you're shooting hormones into a child and you're affecting the child's development, you're saying that's not a choice. That's nonsense. Of course it's a choice. You're choosing to chemically change this child's body.
Which then turned into a weird debate about the existence of alpha males.
It's not scientific, but it is true that women are hardwired to be attracted to confident, athletic men.
I don't know if I agree with that. But
really?
Yeah.
But if you ask girls,
there's a lot of scientific evidence that proves that it's true. I mean, there's a lot of, like, I'm not saying all women, but there are a huge sect of biological, like, females out there that are attracted to that mentality of confidence. And I've talked to women about this. I've talked to women and just be like, is it the aura of confidence that really is the biggest turn on? And for the most part, yes. And the confidence is one thing, but also
that's the thing too, is dividing the line between confidence and being a fucking dickhead.
No, that's the other thing too.
Because there's a lot of dudes that assume that being a dickhead means you're confident. And
that's not the case. You see, there's plenty of dickheads out there who I know that exude like a kind of confidence, but you strip that away. You strip away their wannabe mentality. They're sheepish. They're completely sheepish, and they don't know what to do with themselves. Whereas there are men out there who, in the most dire circumstances, can be butt naked out, worst scenario. Imagine the worst scenario, and they'll still be calm, cool, and collected. and have that confidence to where they're going to be like, okay, what's the quickest way for me to get out of this situation? All right, don't panic. Don't draw attention to yourself. All right, let's just... And that's a thing. That's a real thing. I've seen it. But, yeah, anyway.
Like, what are you into? And you say, are you into tall, muscular, confident men who are also nice to you? Jesus Christ, it's going to be off the charts. It's going to be like most of them.
I'm really not sure that's the case.
Really?
However, at least Joe was sober for the Adam Conover debate, as alcohol was one of the main drivers for Joe's heated 2017 argument with Steven Crowder,
the weed
which
argument.
began with Steven stating that the legalization of weed has led to an increase in motor vehicle accidents.
Traffic fatalities regarding marijuana have skyrocketed.
Google that, because that's nonsense.
No, we wrote about it live.
Drunk driving arrests have dropped. What do you mean you've... First of all...
Yeah, we wrote about what the sources are, the original studies.
Steven then tried to convince Joe that he didn't really care about the use of weed.
I don't care about it.
Yeah, you do.
I don't care.
You're the guy that thinks people should be able to do whatever. You're a free market guy,
that's
right?
what I just said.
So if you're a free market guy, why wouldn't you be in support of something, whether it's the most beneficial or equally beneficial? But you're not necessarily, because you're denying.
Which is followed by Joe mocking Steven for his attitude.
Things that are good. And don't shore, man. Just like you don't shore turmeric, you don't shore ginger, you don't shore a reduced sugar diet. All those things that reduce inflammation are good for you.
I don't buy that smoking marijuana would be as beneficial as a reduced sugar diet.
After bringing up a study to support Joe's point, the following exchange ensued.
Since marijuana legalization, highway fatalities in Colorado are at near historic lows.
You haven't bringing up the source that you want to find.
Washington
Bring
Post.
up the study right there. Yep.
That's the thing with Washington Post. I don't trust Washington Post as much as I do other sources. But, I mean, honestly, Crowder, I've watched some of his stuff, and I go back and forth with some of the stuff that people draw from him and everything, and I'm just like, I've looked into everything that they have evidence to support their points and everything, and I've seen that most of it is just like, this is a very fixed perspective that they're looking from. Whereas, I mean, as much as I want to pretend if you have a source that's just a concrete, finite, no more arguing the topic. You know, if there's a source, that means it's true. I mean, I'm not one of those people, but from my experiences, ever since the cannabis legalization here in the state of Virginia, I will say this: it would seem that opioid use has dropped immensely. Opioid use in this area has dropped a tremendous amount. And not only that, but also alcohol use has also dropped a whole lot. Especially amongst people who are, who have the medical, ability to acquire cannabis. And I think the benefits of legalized cannabis far outweigh, just the full illegality setting that cannabis has always had in the United States. Now, does this mean that I'm just gonna be toking all the time and just living in a constant high or a haze? No, that's not my thing. But there are people out there who would. Oh, what?
Vegas sniffing his paw and he's twitching because he's tickling his paw.
Oh God.
He's like.
So, but like I was saying, I know people. It would benefit them more to do that than it would to be be put in a soma coma. Soma,
Hey, don't scratch that.
No,
Vega,
Vega.
Mr. Cuddy, no. Go upstairs
Vega was
and scratch the
scratching
scratchy post.
Vega was scratching the mattress over there. Yeah. That's not good.
Go upstairs and scratch the scratchy post. Or scratch the busted chair.
The benefit of the whole deal with cannabis legalization, I think the pros far outweigh the cons. Don't get me wrong, there are some cons to it, but I think
it's not a whole lot though.
No, not as many as people want to claim. And Crowder is, I'm not going to say is anti-weed, but he he does go out of his way a lot of the time to demonize cannabis. And I'm
the
like,
traffic accidents thing has to be bullshit, and like there's still a lot of like negative things against people, like, oh, it's still driving impaired and stuff. And I was like, dude, everyone I've ever ridden in a car with that has been under the influence of marijuana has gone slow as shit.
Yeah.
And has never run a stop sign because they wait for them to turn green. Like, they are not at all a danger to anyone else on the road.
Yeah, whereas people...
If someone feels too high to drive, normally they'll end up pulling over too and just being like, I gotta wait for a minute. Like,
yeah,
gotta have their faculties about them again.
Gotta wait for the world to stop spinning.
Drunk people don't fucking pull over. They're just like, I'm good. Everything's
yeah,
fine
we're
until
good.
they fucking kill somebody.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, Washington Post. Bring up the study that we wrote. We wrote about it on our website.
Look, I don't care about your website. Since marijuana legalization, highway fatalities in Colorado
Since you called me
And after Joe sobered up the following day, he issued an apology for the way he acted during one of the most heated arguments in Joe Rogan history.
He actually invited Crowder back on, I think, about a month later, and him and I think his producer was on there. I forget, but they talked about other stuff, and it was a much more like cordial visit, and they still disagreed about cannabis legalization and all that, but it was a lot more productive of a conversation. Oh, what is it, Ashy? What is it? Oh, you big ham! Look at Asher. Look at that boy. So yeah, this Sunny V2 video, the reaction is currently 46 minutes long. Christ almighty, we can't stop ourselves. But, alright, anyway. Most intense arguments in Joe Rogan history, it should say in the history of the Joe Rogan experience, because this all took place on Joe Rogan's podcast, and...
Well, yeah, it's implied.
Yeah, I can see that, but... Anyway, this was a good one. Sunny V2, as always, does a really good job, and there's other videos that Sunny V2's come out with here recently that we definitely need to check out. But everyone, thank you all very much for tuning in, and until next time, I'm Nate.
I am Nick.
And that's Asher. And we'll see you later, everybody. Bye-bye.